All right, so more about the panel. Something I would like to do is I would like to actually draw in grid cells. So my plan is I would like to actually make vertical lines that separate the grid squares. Let's see, if I need 10 squares and I want lines between them, and I want lines on the right as well, I'm going to somehow need to get the width and height of my graphic area, the place where I'm allowed to paint in, and basically divide it up by the number of cells I've got. So I'm going to create an int width. So let's see, if I do rows and columns just like I did before, rows is going to be how many things in the y direction I have, and columns is going to be how many things I have in the x direction. So this is going to be cell 0, well actually it's my width of my whole area divided by cell 0. This is actually going to change depending on if I resize the screen, so I'll just declare width for now. Width and height. And then each time I go through this graphics object, I'm going to go ahead and recalculate the width and height. So this is whatever the width of the panel is. Hey, look, this dot get width gives me my width. Let's see, cells dot length will give me the number of things in this dimension. So cells, I think I want cell 0 here. And height equals this dot get height divided by cells dot length. So these are the two different dimensions. You have the regular cells and the cell 0 length. All right, so I need to draw a certain number of lines. That sounds like, rather than writing out 11 different things, I think I'm actually going to just divide up my width and use a for loop to count through it. So if I go through cells 0.length, this is going to be my x. I'm going to draw lines based on that. So let's see, I'm going to have some x value, some y value, some other x value, some other y value. And that's the line I'm going to draw. Well, let's see. This x value here is going to change over time. So I'll get to that in a sec. It's going to be based on the width. The y value is from the top to the bottom. That's simply 0 to my height. Get height will give me that. All right, what is this x value going to be? So this x value is going to be 0 the first time. Then it's going to be basically 1 width of my screen. And then it's basically 2 widths of my screen of these cells. So this is going to be x times width. X times width. Because 0 the first time will be 0. That's perfect. All right, so let's see. What does that look like? All right, lines. Now I'm missing one at the end here because I need to actually go up to 1 more than the number of cells I have. Because if I just do the number of cells, that will be 10. So it'll be the left side of each cell, but I'll miss the right side of the last one. There we go. Now something you should note is that there's a little bit of extra gap here. And that's because as I'm going through this, I'm actually rounding. If I want to be more precise about this, I probably should do this as a double and actually take one of these two components and make it a double. The reason why is that there will actually probably not be an even number of pixels in each cell. So I should make a double of this. And then when I calculate this value, I should probably round it rather than truncating it. Math.round will allow me to do that. It's a built-in function in the math library. And that will make it so that I can change this double into basically a whole number. Now, unfortunately, round, it turns out, gives you back a long. A long is a bigger version of an int. So I actually need to take this thing, which is correctly calculated, it's just the wrong type of thing, and make it an int. Give me another parenthesis. There we go. I need to do the same thing here. By the way, this error, if you hover over it, what it's saying is that it has int, long, int, and what it needs is 4 ints. So that what it's trying to tell you is this third thing here is the wrong type of thing to work with drawLine. So I need to make sure that this thing becomes an int. So now, as I go out, it actually scales better. I'm not quite seeing the rightmost line because it's drawing just past the end of the screen if it's rounding correctly. All right, I need to do a similar thing for the height now. So I think I'm going to make the height a double as well. Let's see, let's make one of these arguments a double because it always uses the more precise thing. Otherwise, these two would be integers and I would still have problems. And then I should do a for loop for the y's. The clever amongst you may notice that I don't have to do this. I could put it in the same for loop, but I'm going to do it explicitly anyway. So this will be cells.length y. And this time, what I need to do is I need to draw from the left to the right. So 0 for the x. I'm going to do get width for the x. And then I need another y value. So the y values are going to be, so when I'm drawing across, the y values are the things that are going to change. So I need to do something like this rounding multiplying by the width, only I'm going to be multiplying by the height. So the full thing is, I'm going to round, and the function I'm going to round is y times height. And this is going to be the same because I'm drawing horizontal lines all the way across. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Very good. And as I scale, it seems to go right. Until things get very small, of course. You could just make sure that your thing isn't resizable. All right, so I can now draw things in this grid. One other thing I should mention is that to change the colors of whatever you're doing, you actually set the color before you draw whatever you're going to do. So before I draw these lines, I could set the color. So set color. There's some pre-built ones, so I could do color dot blue, for example, if I really wanted to. Colors in AWT, so I have to import that. So if I draw that, look, blue grid lines, yay. These are the primary and secondary colors as well as black and white. So I could do magenta if I really wanted to. Wow, that's hard on the eyes. Anyway, and if you really want your own color, what you can say is new color and pass in a red, green, and blue argument. So if I want, let's see, red at 255, blue at 128, and green at 0. You can also put in an alpha if you're really excited about these. It makes this kind of weird orangey color. There you go. I'm just going to do black for now. Color dot black. And that'll make sure that my grid lines are black. All right. The next step I'd like to take is, so this particular game involves actually making cells turn on and off. So what I'd like to do is, if I click here, I'd like to make this square here turn black. If I click here, I'd like this square to turn black. And if I click again, I'd like to turn it back to transparent. So for this to work out, I need to be able to click in this area and have Java actually pay attention to that. So much like an action listener, Java has something called a mouse listener. So in life, I'm going to implement a mouse listener. I have to import this. Now a quick warning, action listeners are much more simple than a mouse listener. Instead of just one event, if I create a mouse listener, I must add 5 different events. Clicked, entered, exited, pressed, and released. Now, the vast majority of these actually do nothing. What these things do is, entered means you've gone into a particular component. So as soon as the mouse goes into a panel or a button or whatever, it'll fire this. Exited is the opposite of that. So if you wanted to do hover over stuff, you would use these two. I'm not going to, so I'm not going to worry about those. But I still have to have them in my code to actually register as a mouse listener. Now, press and release. Press means the button goes down while it's over it. Release means the button goes up while it's over it. Click means it goes down and up in the same pixel over something. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a mouse release for this particular one. So I'm not going to bother with pressed or clicked, but I'm going to put my code into here. arg0 is kind of terrible, so I'm going to take arg0 and have event instead, because I feel like event is a better name for a mouse event. Now, much like how action performed had an action event, and action event had information about what was pressed, mouse event has information about what the X and Y position on the screen was that you clicked on, or within a particular component. So what I'd like to do for here is, let's just get some information. So I can get the X, maybe I'll add on a comma, and get the Y of this particular event. So when I actually click, I'm going to just see down here in the terminal the X and Y position of where I clicked. Now, by itself, this will do nothing, just like with action performed. I actually have to add the listener to something. In particular, what I'd like to add it to is this panel. So right after I add the panel, I'm going to add a mouse listener and say, hey, this code here, the thing that implements mouse listener, is going to be listening for panel clicks. So if I click on the bar, notice that nothing happens down here, but when I click down here, it gives me the X and Y